Huzzah, Rangers. This is Phil Harris coming to you from the Jax Rangers show. This is episode 4, baby. We're moving right along. Episode 4 is jammed packed, guys, because guess what? It is rivalry week. We lost to Atlanta. We'll talk about that a little bit later on in the episode with Dave in the Outriders segment. Boo hoo. It's still wide open in the East, guys. That's the good news. But right now, I want to focus on it is rivalry week. We are facing RUNY, otherwise known as New Jersey, Rugby United New Jersey. That is their name for the rest of the week. I call them that all year round, but I'm really going to harp on the fact that this New York team has to play in New Jersey just like the Giants and the Jets and the Red Bulls of the world. They called themselves New York. They play in New Jersey. It's a joke. Sopranos, rebrand, KFC. It's all happening, baby. This week, we've got, like I said, a jammed packed show. I wanted to mention who's on the show. Okay, of course, we've got the Outriders segment with Phil and Dave, as I said earlier, breaking down Free Jacks news. The game against Atlanta, we'll be breaking that down. The analysis will be there, guys, later on in the show. We're going to be talking about the upcoming game against New Jersey, and also looking around the league at the scores and the rapid reactions of those from around the league here in week 9, I guess it is, week 9. Also, I wanted to mention we have a GoFundMe set up for Coach Ryan Martin. It was something that was said on Coach's Corner, the most recent one that came out last week, where Dallin was mentioning that he was wearing a Bruins hat, Coach Ryan Martin was, and we have been here at the Jax Rangers show clamoring for a Bruins hat to be worn on the show. Backstory. This is what happened. So first, Coach's Corner, Coach Ryan Martin, who's a New Zealander, right? We kind of give him a little bit of a pass for this, but he was wearing a LA Clippers hat of all things after we played LA in LA. So I jumped on there on my personal account because this was pre-Jax Rangers. I went on there and gave him a little bit of flack, saying you would never see Bill Belichick wearing a LA Clippers hat. He would never wear that hat if, let's say, the Patriots were playing the LA Rams in LA. It just would not happen in his press conference. So we set him straight. He started wearing, he wore a Celtics hat the next week. And since then, he's wearing Patriots, he's worn Red Sox. And then finally, weeks after the Red Sox hat, he wore a Bruins hat. Dallin mentioned, this is kind of getting to be an expensive endeavor for Coach to buy all these hats that we're asking him to wear. Next week, hopefully, we see a New England Revolution hat. So I've set up for the Jax Rangers show, through the Jax Rangers show, rather, a GoFundMe for Coach Ryan Martin's hat expenses. The goal is $250. That'll buy him a lot of hats, right? And kind of reimburse him for the expenses of the hats that he's already purchased, which would be Patriots, Bruins, Red Sox, Celtics. We're already at $130, guys, as of me recording this right now, which is on Sunday, May the 16th, in the year of our Lord 2021. So if you guys can go on to GoFundMe.com, search for Coach Ryan Martin Hat Fund, I believe it is, Hat Fund, donate, a little bit goes a long way. Once we reach the goal, I'm planning on getting one of those big wacky checks and presenting it to him at a future game. So it's just something silly to have fun with. But I wanted to mention, this is the biggest interview that we've ever done. Now, Spider was absolutely huge, but I think this is just slightly bigger because we've got the biggest fish that we could reel in, guys, in terms of Free Jack's staff. We've got Alexander Magleby coming on. Mags is on the show for our interview this week. But I said it was jam-packed earlier, and what I mean by that is, so we've got Outriders with Phil and Dave. We've got a Mags interview that was awesome that Dave joined in on, and he was very happy to do that. Also, because it's rivalry week, we're playing those Roosters, those pesky Roosters from New Jersey. We've got on the big guy, Scott Ferrara from Rugby Rant, and he also occasionally, if you'll notice on the episodes here, they've been in hibernation for a while. I'm kind of poking fun at him a little bit here. The Rooster Boosters podcast for the Rooney supporters, the New Jersey supporters, as I like to call them. He is also going to be on this show. Wanted to give a couple shout outs before we jump into the episode. Geez, I haven't even done the intro music, guys. This is how big this episode is. Shout outs go to Chris Lind, who has been very helpful with providing some feedback about the show. He mentioned I said moving right along too frequently in the last Outriders episode, which he was correct. After I posted it and after I listened to it all the way through, I did notice after the fact that I was saying that too much. And I even kind of poked fun at myself on YouTube. So if you haven't seen that comment, go check that out in the previous episode listed on YouTube. And Chris was saying, because we were saying that it's a working title for Outriders. Outriders with Phil and Dave. He's saying that we could probably come up with a better segment name, which I don't disagree with. He had mentioned moving right along with Phil and Dave. So that's very funny, Chris. Thank you so much for your feedback. Finally, I wanted to give a shout out to Joseph Sanchez. He is a guy that I went to a game today for the Worcester Woo Sox. It's the first series, I believe, at home. They're at a brand new, beautiful ballpark in Worcester, Massachusetts, Polar Park. I was walking through at the concourse there, and I had my mask on, and it was, of course, a Free Jacks mask. And he's a worker that works there, a staff member of the Woo Sox, and he was like, "Hey, Free Jacks, that's awesome, man!" So I went over and gave him some knuckles. I said, "Hey, man, what's up?" And he's a big Free Jacks supporter, so I just wanted to give him. And he also listens to the show. He's a listener of the show. That's the main reason I wanted to shout him out. Joseph Sanchez, this little moment right here is for you, brother. Keep listening. I appreciate you listening in. Woo! Go Free Jacks and go Worcester Red Sox. I do love baseball. I love all sports, guys, but rugby is, of course, number one in my heart. So that does it for the shout outs. Let's jump right into the show. This is a mega show, guys. I'm trying to really insert some excitement here. We've got a huge show for you. It's rivalry week, baby. Let's beat those stupid Roosters. KFC, baby. Fry up that chicken. Woo! Let's go. Huzzah! Man, that intro is a banger, baby. Woo, it gets me fired up every time. All right, guys, like I said several times already in the episode, it is rivalry week. So we want to beat New Jersey. We're going to beat them stupid chickens down there in New Jersey, in Jersey City. Pranos, hey. We're coming for you. Just wanted to promote the rugby rant. I'm going to have Scott, the big guy, later on in the episode. I actually was able to join them in a recording for the Rugby Rant podcast, which is now also, congratulations, guys, on the Rugby Network. So you will be able to see me in the episode on Friday, this coming Friday, which the 21st. I will be on the episode. I will tell you right now, I'm my own harshest critic, and I would say that my performance was less than amazing, maybe a little bit overwhelmed and nervous by the bright lights of the Rugby Rant podcast. Hopefully they'll have me on in the future and I'll be able to get everything sorted out there with being a little bit more nervous than I expected and being a little bit overwhelmed. But hey, it was my first time in that type of format. Normally I was just a one-on-one conversation that I have with folks on this show. And hey, it's still early on, right? So I don't want to be too harsh with myself, but yeah, I was on the episode, guys. Be gentle with me in the comments, please, and thank you. Another thing I wanted to mention here real quick, I wanted to promote the watch along that we are doing on the 23rd. So obviously New England is playing down in New Jersey against RUNY, the Roosters, those dirt peckers, as I like to call them, on the 23rd at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. So if you guys don't know already, the Three Bod Rugby Group out in Ireland, our cousins across the pond there, put on watch-alongs from time to time of rugby games. So the way that a watch-along works, if you're not familiar, is we will stream ourselves, not streaming the game, but us watching the game. So you guys can tune in to our reactions as the game is taking place, our match thoughts at halftime and at the end. So you can, on your, let's say, TV, you can watch the game, maybe put it on mute if you would like, and then maybe on your phone or your laptop, tablet, whatever, you guys can watch us watching the game. Sounds a little weird if you've never done it before, but it's actually quite entertaining. My boys at Stretford Paddock, which is a Manchester United supporter fan page on YouTube, and they're on everything. They do a really good job at those watch-alongs. So we're going to take a stab at it here with the Jacks Rangers show. The format should be myself as a Free Jacks fan, of course, and one more Jacks Ranger type Free Jack fan, and there might be two Rooney supporters as well, if we can get it squared away on Sunday, the 23rd at 4 p.m. So watch out for social links and stuff like that I'll be posting for that watch along in promotion of that. I'm really excited. Big Joe Shepherd, who runs the Three Blood Rugby group. Yeah, I'm a big fan of his work, man. They do top notch work. They actually do the production for the Free Jacks videos that you see that get posted on a monthly basis. The Midnight Rider series that they have there. I think Joe's behind all of that. So he does primo work, as we say in the industry. I don't know what I'm talking about, but yeah. Anyway, just wanted to promote those two things. One more thing, guys. Sorry, I'm just so excited. I am ordering 25 stickers that's going to have the Jacks Rangers logo, and it's going to say the Jacks Rangers show on the sticker. So if you want to send me your address, I will mail you a sticker. I will pay for postage. I will get a sticker out to you. DM me on Twitter or Instagram with your address, or Facebook message me on the Jacks Rangers Facebook group there over your address, and I will send you, no purchase necessary, I will send you a sticker that you can stick wherever you want to. Cool things happening with the show, man. It's already, only 4 episodes in here, so I feel like a rookie still. I am a rookie still with all of this, but big things happening, guys. Positive momentum for the show for sure. All right, so here we go with Outriders with Phil and Dave happening. Here we go right now on the Jacks Rangers show.
Huzzah, Rangers. This is Phil Harris again here at the Jacks Rangers show. I've got my buddy Dave, co-host of the Outriders. This is our Outriders segment here. Dave, how the hell are you?
I'm doing great. Good to be here, Phil.
Yeah, it's
Happy
awesome
to talk about rugby.
Yeah, we had a little bit of a slump, if you'll say that, in Atlanta, unfortunately, but we're bouncing back. It's rivalry week, baby. Let's get it.
Right. Absolutely. Woo! Ready to ride. It's going to be quite the showdown, I think, with Rooney.
I agree. So let's jump right into Free Jacks news. Any updates about Welsh players in MLR, Dave?
Nothing yet. haven't found one yet.
Your dog ate your homework.
Yeah, nothing to report.
All right. So the Free Jacks have signed Ewan Brumwell, who is a fly half / center. There's an Otago connection with Coach Ryan Martin. So excited to get him into the fold here. And there's a bit of a theme because we've got one more guy that was just signed today. He is a Fijian national team standout and playmaker. Tui Draco is his first name. And the last name has Sam USA, and then a couple more syllables after that I have yet to figure out how to pronounce. He's a fly half.
I think I could be wrong, but this is my best guess. Is Tui Draki Samu Vodre.
All right, I'll take your word for it.
I haven't found any audio of anyone pronouncing his name yet, and right. I am not that familiar with Fijian names, unfortunately. So
the theme here is he's a fly half as well. What do you make of these signings, Dave? Just depth coverage, or is the team looking for a new fly half starter?
I think not looking for a new fly half starter. I think that we have had to tap some of the depth resources we have in our bench guys, our 23 the past several weeks. Okay. And I think they're looking to shore that up. I don't think it's a problem of underperformers in the starting rotation, at 10. But I think some of the guys they've had making spot appearances on the bench are maybe not their first choice, considering how often it's been happening. We've seen some of the Jared Collinson, the strength and conditioning coach, who's a great guy, great local player. But I think that is not him specifically, but just an example. We've seen a lot more of Jared than we probably would have expected this season, maybe. And that's the kind of stuff that they're seeing they have a need, where they're using players in those positions a little bit more and maybe looking for a little bit more depth. We've also had some unfortunate, injury problems, not at 10 specifically, but like with Brassati and Sean Jacobian both being out at the beginning of the season, and now Sean Jacobian's back out again. So we've just seen a lot of churn in the back line. Sure. And these guys have so much experience. I think they bring a lot of liquidity to the roster where they can plug in a lot of places with high level of confidence.
Yeah, I think Ewan for sure is more of a utility guy. He can play at center, he can play at fly half. Hell, he might be able to play over the whole dang back line there. So that's exciting.
I think it's interesting to note too what Ryan Martin is kind of looking for in these guys. We have one guy, Tuadraki has been a captain at Fiji You know,
Wow.
leadership. It's got to have a high work rate. I haven't seen him play before, but I'm just guessing. Based on that, he's got to be a hard worker. I saw that Ewan Brummel's nickname is Honest.
Okay.
Honest Ewan, based on this just from the Free Jacks press release, but based on his work rate and how much work he puts into matches. So
All right.
I think that's something we can read just from the scant information we have so far. Utility guys who work hard.
Yeah, love it. All right, so next on the little list here for Free Jacks news, we've got Coach Ryan Martin Hat Fund. So let me explain this real quick for the folks that may not be aware. I did mention it earlier in the podcast, but for those that may not have been paying attention, Coach Ryan Martin loves his hats. He actually wore a LA Clippers hat during the first Coach's Corner with Dallin Stanford. And on my personal page, so this was pre-Free Jacks, or excuse me, pre-Jacks Rangers, I kind of lit him up a little bit. I was like, hey, man, Bill Belichick wouldn't wear an LA Clippers hat if the LA Rams just play the Patriots in LA, just so you know. So can we get you a Celtics hat? So by God, the next week he was wearing a Celtics hat. And since that point, he's worn, Red Sox, Bruins most recently, so, and Patriots as well. So yeah. I commented every week. I'm like, I reckon he'll be wearing this hat. So then the most recent one I've said is the Revolution soccer team. So yeah, and Dallin happened to mention like, oh, we should start a GoFundMe. So guess what? Jacks Rangers did. We started a GoFundMe.
We got it.
It's $130 deep at this point. We've got a goal of $250. I can buy him all kind of fancy hats and reimburse him for the ones that have already been purchased. So it's a little bit of fun. We're being silly, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's good fun. I noticed the guys in the organization seem to have taken a liking to it too. Yes. It's pretty cool to see TK and Willix, I think, was on there, and Mags, all these guys donating who are, part of the team.
And Dave donated as well, so I appreciate it, Dave.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good cause. I think it's a good bit of fun.
And if we get this thing finished, by the time a home game rolls around, which I'm hoping that we will, I've got a little surprise. I'm researching some stuff to make it a little bit more funny as well. So guys, be on the lookout for that. So the final thing I wanted to mention with Free Jacks news is the Massachusetts governor, Mr. Baker, an announcement today allows for full capacity starting May the 19th. And isn't that convenient? We have a game that day, which is, I believe, Saturday or Sunday.
Sunday? Saturday, you're right. It's the last Saturday game, and then we have a bunch of Sunday games after that. Sorry, a bunch of our home games are Sunday games, but not that one. Yeah.
But tickets are available, so that means that we are wide open, baby. Let's get shoulder to shoulder in this bad boy.
Yeah, Free Jacks announced that they will be opening up and selling a lot more tickets. So get on that website, freejacks.com, get your tickets.
Yeah, call Ollie. Make him very busy for the next couple weeks. All those guys in the ticketing office, founding members to return to their original seats, which I know a lot of people are excited about, including myself.
Yep.
It's going to be a Free Jack summer, baby. Woo!
Absolutely. Huzzah. Get your huzzahs ready, everybody.
Yeah, exactly.
We're going to need them. We're going to be doing them.
All right, so rapid reactions. Round number 9 has concluded. Interesting fact, all away teams except Toronto lost this week.
Yeah, I was having a conversation about that with a friend of mine who came to the last match with me and has become a Free Jacks fan. He's buying tickets to the upcoming match as well. But he is a football coach, pretty accomplished line coach, and at the high school level. And he was commenting that, from what he's watched already, it seems like travel is really punishing for a lot of the MLR teams. Pro teams spend a lot of money on that stuff,
right?
And not just to pamper players. It makes a difference competitively when you can travel better, rest more, travel sooner, So I think we are seeing a little bit of that effect on the league. Absolutely.
And I think we saw a little bit in our game there as well towards the end, but we'll get to that a little bit later on. So the first game that was available to us this weekend was, or this past weekend, NOLA Gold 17 and San Diego Legion 43. So what I wrote down, San Diego at home for the first time all season, and then they played like it. Okay, they were in San Diego. Joe Peterson, the fly half, is back and steering the ship. It's a feel-good story for San Diego to win. They've had a lot of injuries to some star players this season. So it's nice to see them blow somebody out, and a good NOLA Gold team. That team's very competitive. It's not like they're some dumpster fire. So yeah, good for them.
Yeah, great to see.
Yeah,
Good performance from them, and it's always good to see a team bounce back.
Yeah, for sure. I saw some rumors that Maya Nanu might be a player coach, but I saw that maybe on Rugby Wrap Up, and then I didn't see it again. So was that just rumor? Do you know anything?
I have the same story as you. I saw it. I saw the story floated as like a breaking story, and then I saw nothing from anybody. Else. I didn't ever see anything official from San Diego. I don't think. Yeah. So yeah, kind of floated. Would be great. I think he's a good fit. He's a fun guy to watch, and I'm sure he has a ton of wisdom he could pass down.
Absolutely.
About those All Blacks teams and their no assholes rule. Always a good rule on any rugby team. No assholes. Assholes not welcome. Thank you. This is a team.
That's a good rule with any organization, I think, to be honest.
Yeah.
All right, so the next one up was Toronto Arrows 19 and Houston Sabercats 10. What I wrote down, the great Matt McCarthy commentating along with a very country accented man that I recognize as Grant Cole, who is Mr. Rugby in Texas. That guy has done it all. He's been a coach. Anything involving rugby, he's more than willing to volunteer his time. He is fantastic ambassador for rugby. He's a rugby evangelist. Years ago, when USA Rugby played Argentina in Houston, Grant gave me some good advice when I was down there watching the game. In regards to the game itself, no score 20 minutes in, although Toronto was camped in Houston's end for most of the first quarter. Houston had an exciting charge down into a try late into the game, but it was not enough to overcome that lead that Toronto had built. I actually wrote all of this down, and I just misread it. So everybody that has their constructive feedback, I appreciate you. I went from the sticky notes, and now I've printed it out, so I just misspoke.
There you go. Yep. No good deed goes unpunished, Phil.
There you go. Exactly.
Yeah, it's good to see Grant getting out there and doing some commenting. He's somebody, like you said, all over the Texas rugby scene. He's also all over social media. Mm-hmm. So if you're anywhere in the rugby social media scene, you've seen him, sharing his opinions. He's a good guy, and he speaks his mind really well too.
Yes, he does. All right, so the next one we have here is New Jersey at Austin Jabronis. So this is rivalry week here with us against New Jersey. So you love to see New Jersey lose a game prior to our game with them, because everybody was kissing their butt after they beat LA in a very good fashion. I'm not taking anything away from what they did to beat LA. But I'm glad that they've been knocked down a peg or two here coming into our game, because I really did not want to have everybody saying, New Jersey's just going to beat New England, blah, blah, blah. So it was a penalty kick fest is what I saw from the highlights, at least. A forward dominating game from the highlights as well. You kind of saw that. I wonder if that's how New York is going to try to play against us, because this New York team, they can really do it all. They're dangerous.
Yeah, they get to choose what they want to do day to day, which is a nice place to be in for a team competitively. Yeah. I think it'll be interesting to see what they show up with, and which team shows up both tactically and performance wise, right? Because they kind of, like the Free Jacks, have been a little bit inconsistent on the field this season. So
right,
it'll make things interesting
for sure. All right, Utah at LA. This game was, so the previous one, I don't think I stated the score. It was 9-16. New Jersey losing to the Gilgronis. And the next one here, we're skipping over our game, of course. 27 Utah Warriors, 38 LA. Rugby at the most expensive sports venue in the world. You love to see that.
It's good. I don't know. I think it is my club rugby background and having to have sometimes played on football fields and high school football fields, which are really narrow.
Right.
But I just hate those thick white sidelines that are not sidelines.
Yeah.
I find it really distracting as a viewer. It's the only field setup that bothers me, I think. That said, I would go there in a heartbeat. What a cool venue to see a rugby match in. I just hope, I really hope that we get to see some nice rugby specific pitches in the future, some, cropping up in the MLR, just becoming more common. We've got a couple, but it would be good to see more.
Houston has led the way with that, obviously. But when I was first starting playing, I kind of created a high school team, and then I, transitioned over to Charlotte Rugby Club, the old originals. And back then, this was the early 2000s, Dave. They had their own rugby-specific field and clubhouse back then. So I was just like, this is so cool. I guess every team has that. And no, they don't.
No. Yeah. When I went to Scotland with my wife years and years ago, it was the summer, and there's no rugby happening of any variety. I emailed Scottish Rugby and was like, I would just love to see anything, literally anything, club match, 15 sevens, a practice, something. And they emailed me back like I was crazy. They were like, no, it's August. There will be nothing. And it was disappointing. So we drove to rugby clubhouses anyway while we were driving around Scotland. Yeah. And I would just pull up and stop and get out and kind of look around and be like, oh, they have a field. They have a clubhouse. Look, they have their own bar and restaurant over here. This is great.
Yeah. Let's see here. LA scored a beautiful champagne rugby kick and chase try 25 minutes in. 2 questionable groundings by LA that were awarded as tries. Might be a TMO situation in the future with MLR. Maybe we'll get that next year. Utah fault like the Free Jacks do at the last second to get a dead time try, but LA just had too much firepower for them, and they lost the game regardless.
Yeah, it's going to be LA have shown that they are not really losing a step. They lost a match, but they're still hitting hard.
Oh yeah.
And it's they remain the team to beat. It's pretty scary.
For sure. Seattle Seawolves 18, Old Glory DC 22. Very close game here.
Yeah, I was really pulling for Seattle there. I was hoping they could beat DC, both for conference reasons and just for wanting them to get another win under their belt this season. But it was not in the cards. DC played hard.
All year long, if a East Coast team is playing a Western Conference team, we want the Eastern Conference team to lose just for the standings because it's just so close, obviously. I saw on Reddit a post with a dumpster fire that said Seattle 2021 on it. I also noticed on there a couple of the players on the roster for both Seattle and DC are just a blast from the past, like Samu Manoa and Threighton Palamu, those guys.
There's some practically old boys at this point.
Yeah, exactly. I remember watching it's probably 11 years ago at this point, the college rugby championship for sevens that they play at Philadelphia pretty much every year. I remember seeing Mr. Palamo there for Utah, and they were talking about him like he was the best thing of all time, as a sevens player, and he was, and he's had a great career since then, but he's getting a little bit long in the tooth there. Beautiful chip and chase leads to a try of the week contender for DC with 25 minutes in. Seattle in striking distance to lead. They attacked in dead time, but they knocked it on, unfortunately. Another heartbreaking loss for Seattle. Sorry, Rucky.
Friend of the show.
Friend of the show, he is. I actually talked to him because he was putting on social media. He's giving away these stickers. So I was like, hey, I'll take one if you want to send one to me. So he's going to send me a sticker, and I'm going to send him a sticker because I actually made some stickers for the show. So if anybody wants a sticker and you're hearing this, send me your address. I know that sounds weird. Maybe if you got a P.O. box, that's perfectly fine too. Send me your address. I'll send you a sticker. All right. So unfortunately, we have to talk about our Free Jacks against Atlanta. At Atlanta, the final score on that one was 18-30. Favor of the Rattlers. What do you think, Dave?
It was a tough loss. It was frustrating to watch. I feel like I know a little bit what the fans of some of the teams we beat this season feel like, where Atlanta in the second half just seemed like they were in total control. And the Free Jacks at times seem really to be almost desperate to just create something, which led to a lot of uncharacteristic handling error, something we don't see a lot from the team. Kind of made you appreciate how good the handling has been the rest of the season, because we dropped a lot of balls on Saturday. And it was tough when our scrum wasn't performing. So knock on turns into a scrum turns into an opportunity for a penalty. They're going to kick down the field and take their line out. Their line out was outperforming our line out, and their maul was outperforming our defensive maul. It was just kind of a cascade of bad situations, low percentage situations for the Free Jacks, just stacked on top of each other. Good game management from Atlanta. They had a game plan they executed really well. As Pedro Martinez says, sometimes you just got to tip your hat and call him your daddy.
I wouldn't go that far, but I understand what you're saying.
I had to get it in there, though. It was such a moment,
Yeah. So
it was tough, though. It was not a good.
Only 3 out of 10 MLR experts picked us to win the game. Dave, your key to the game was to stop Atlanta Mauls, but the first points scored were a maul try by Atlanta. So at that point, I was like, we got to figure this out. And unfortunately, we didn't really. I think we were losing the entire game. I don't think we led once.
And we threw everything but the kitchen sink at that first maul to try and stop it. We stopped the first one pretty well, and then the next line out, we committed a penalty, and they kicked to the edge again, and then we gave it up on that. We tried the no contest, and that didn't work.
Yep.
They responded correctly and just kept the ball at the front and started driving. So we had to engage and start the maul. We then were a little unprepared for. Josh Larson got in there and tried to stop it. He got a hand on it, but couldn't stick, and it was tough. And that kind of set. That was like 5 minutes. We were down in that corner forever, waiting on that first try to finally, get in. And it kind of set the tone for the rest of the game, yeah.
For sure. Knock-ons all game by us. Slippery ball, I believe is what the commentators were saying. Seems like we had more than any other game in terms of knock-ons in this one, and it really bit us in the butt there with turnovers.
Yeah, absolutely. It was not good. There was a lot of big contact too. Atlanta's a very physical team, so wet ball makes sense. That's when you really see the ball squirting everywhere. There's a lot of collision with energy, and if the ball's wet, it's going to go.
Yeah. Attacking, kicking by Atlanta burned us twice with tries there. Line out woes continuing, bad overthrows at the end of the game. Despite all of that, we were right there in the game, 19-18 with 71 minutes left. So we're talking about this like it was some kind of domination display, and it really wasn't per se. I mean, we were in the game. We had 1 point differential with 71 minutes left, and then what happened? 2 yellow cards. Lack of discipline burns us again, my friend.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just, putting ourselves in situations where it's tough to win. They were team yellows. The ref's going to do what he has to do to manage the game. It's the sort of thing where it wasn't an individual error. It wasn't somebody going out headhunting, doing something foolish, or making a high tackle. It was just a team mistake of not minding our discipline enough as a group in the scrum and just in the loose at the breakdown. So once you're in that position, you're hard pressed to do anything about it. We did it once. Maybe you only get one a season, maybe, when we went down two yellow cards and then stole the ball. I actually said while I was watching, we did it one time, maybe we can, and then Atlanta scored.
Yeah. It was all she wrote after that. Nice to see and hear so many Free Jacks fans there, though. I think Tammy McQueen, who's one of the staff members of the Free Jacks, lives in Atlanta. So I think she had bought a bunch of tickets, and people showed out. I even saw a limousine pulling up in her Instagram posts with Free Jacks fans.
Oh, wow. There you
That's
go. High
cool.
society.
Yeah, absolutely. So my MVP for the game, it's weird to say this, because we lost, but Harry Barton, running over a player to score a try. He's only 21 years old, guys. He's also my Musket-sized pants tent. I didn't award it to the other team this week.
Is that Wheelbarrow Barlow? Is that?
Yeah, old Barlow.
Yeah.
Let me see here. I think I said Barton. I wrote it as Barton, but it's Barlow, of course.
Yeah.
They had mentioned they made a mistake on the graphics there during the game and said that he was 18. I was like, that's not true. And I was like,
hilarious. Maybe they're just firing shots. That might just be poking fun at that point.
Right. Yeah, he's 21. But yeah, I mean, what a player. The physicality, just running over somebody to score a try. You love to see that in rugby, of course.
Yeah, he knows how to be evasive, and he knows how to control the contact too. So, I mean, that's the combination you want out of a guy out there whose job is there to finish those tries. And we're seeing he's got a lot of tools in the toolbox to finish them. So it's good, exciting player to watch.
Who's your MVP of the game?
I'm gonna say it's tough to pick anybody out for an exceptional performance. There were some people who did individual things that were good. Vian Conradi was powerful as always. He's always got a lot of great runs and tackles out there. But I was very happy to see Pawasa Wakanabau in the roster, and I was excited for the defense that he brought. And I thought he came up well. He generated a lot of pressure. He generated some turnovers, which is what we need him doing out there. So I'll give it to Pawasa.
All right, perfect. So moving right, almost said it. Next thing here is rivalry week, baby. We've got New England at New Jersey, our Sopranos little brothers.
Yeah, playing just across the Hudson in Jersey City, yep. Right on the water.
So I hope our away fans don't get too confused. Just follow the GPS, guys. Yes, you're going to go into New Jersey from New York. Yes, it's weird because they're called New York, but I mean, it is what it is, unfortunately. Hopefully the team bus doesn't get lost either on the way there. This is one that we've circled on the calendar since the schedule was released. I know our captain and the Eagle, as a born and raised New Englander on the team, are letting the team know how much this one means to the fans. It's a big one, Dave. Yeah,
absolutely. It's a team you never want to lose to. Even people who don't care that much about rugby are going to hear about it. It's the sort of grudge match that brings a little bit of extra energy. So guys are going to have to feel that and keep their heads. It's a tough tightrope to walk sometimes.
Yep.
So it should be interesting to see.
You always want to beat New York at anything, rugby, baseball, football, pickleball, you name it. We want to beat them. Now, of course, we said this team can do it all. They can play running rugby and they can grind it out. Example for that is the LA game. Yep. Travel not as much of a factor compared to other weeks. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that it's going to be a good match. I think we have to really, like I said, watch our discipline. Dan Hollinshead is the points leader in MLR currently. They're mostly off the back of penalties and conversions kicked for New York. So really lethal boot. You can't give him cracks at the goal. That's a big one. Mm-hmm. They do have a negative 46 point differential currently. New York does. So their defense is vulnerable. They've given up a lot of tries. So we have to ask a lot of different questions of their defense, challenge them in different ways. That's kind of a strength of Ryan Martin, I feel like. He's really, really good at presenting just a bunch of different attacking looks and options and threats, and you really have to be scared about the entire field all the time, especially coming off set pieces like lineouts and stuff. So as long as those are performing well, I think we'll be good to challenge their defense pretty significantly.
But if you think about it, I don't think our backs need to prove much at this point in the season. We know what they can do. Poland to Boyle is one of the best combos in the league. If Dougie Fife isn't scoring, then Barlow is. If New Jersey wants to grind this game out, then our forwards have something to prove, in my opinion, with recent results here. They need to step up. So this is my key to the game. Forwards need to step up and take this win from New Jersey. If they're going to play this grinded out game, beat them at their own game. What's your key to the game?
Yeah, pretty close to that. I zoned in on the scrum specifically. We are losing right now season wide. We've lost over a fifth of our scrums. We only have like a 79% scrum win rate, which is not okay. I know those guys are working hard. I called it out a couple weeks ago. I said that hopefully it's a mechanical fix. There's got to be something. I did note last week the ref said Eric de Jager's knee was coming down some, and when you could see on his side of the scrum, it's a good tactic. I think that's probably intentional more than being overpowered. But it's not a good sign that he has to do that much. So securing the scrum, it's got to be a little bit better. And if we can get that secured and add that attacking platform to launch that creative attack from, I think we're in good shape against New York.
Okay, right on. So it's prediction time. Rivalry week. We got a prediction here. Would you like to go first or me?
I can go first. I keep overshooting the mark a little bit, so I'm going to tone it down from my last prediction. Not too much though. So I'm going to say 28 New York and 28 New England, and 21 New York.
Are you kidding me? All right, guys, look at this. I don't know if you can. Well, it's going to be a nightmare to see it, but it is on there. New England 24, New York 21. Razor close game is what I wrote down here, and I think it's going to be one of those nail biters all the way to the end. We don't know who's going to win the game until maybe like the last 10, 5 minutes there. That's where the championship time is, as they say. Man, I hope we win this game. I do not want to lose to RUNY, New Jersey, rather.
Yeah, pressure's on for these guys. It's going to be a really, really good match to watch.
I've actually got a bet with the big guy Scott from the Rugby Rant and the Rooster Boosters podcast. So we're playing New York, or New Jersey rather, 2 times this year. So the way that it's going to work is whoever wins these games will have to have a future appearance on like the Rugby Rant or something like that, where we'll be wearing each other's jerseys, whoever's winning the games. So
really putting it on the line.
Yeah, man. I would hate to have to wear it. Although I will say this, okay? I like to be fair. I don't like the team, New York, New England rivalry, but I will say this. Their kit, not that bad.
Orange and blue, classic color combo, complementary colors, goes great together. I do like the team. I don't hate New York, even though I'm contractually obligated as a person who lives in Massachusetts.
Right.
I don't hate them. I find it hard to root against any of the teams in MLR. I'm just so excited about it, which I know is like horribly boring, but it's how I feel. But I will say, I'm so glad they got rid of the pinstripes, because that pinstripe jersey they had last year was, or maybe the year before. They only had it for 1 year because it was the worst kit I think I've ever seen for a rugby team, where they had the New York, Rooney or New York text as the pinstripes on the kit. So I'm very glad they moved on from that. At least you won't have to wear that if, heaven forbid, the Free Jacks drop the series.
No, that's not going to happen because they're going to win. So Scott's going to be wearing our beautiful Free Jacks kit. Scott's,
and how lucky for him. I mean, great kit for anyone to have.
Yeah, classic look with the collar.
An honor.
We'll tell him to pop the collar like I do as a second row, and a call back to King Eric from Manchester United. Always pop the collar when I used to play. So, all right. That is going to do it. It is rivalry week, guys. Let's go, Free Jacks. We do not want to lose to New Jersey. Let's beat them up.
Huzzah.
Huzzah. Woo! Let's ride, baby.
Huzzah. Let's ride.
All right. Of course, Dave and I in the Outriders segment there, predicting a big win for our Free Jacks over our hated rivals RUNY, the Dirt Peckers there in New Jersey. Tell us your prediction by commenting on any type of post that we do on social media, or sending an email to jacksrangershow@gmail.com. Definitely want your input on the show. Let us know what you think about the score. Let us know what your key to the game is. Give us a shout out on social as well. We're trying to boost up our social media accounts. So like, share, subscribe, all of that fun stuff. If you're a fan of the podcast, let your rugby friends know about it. I know a lot of people that listen to this show are involved in a rugby club, whether it be at university or men's or women's clubs. So, hey, tell them about Jacks Rangers. If you're a Free Jacks fan, we're a fan of you, and let the people know. We're trying to do our best over here to let people know about it. But you, fellow Ranger, are our greatest asset in doing that. So I appreciate you guys spreading the love, spreading the word of the Jacks Rangers show. Next up, we have the biggest guest in our 4 episodes. Now, Spider, as I was saying earlier, was absolutely huge to open the show in episode 1. The guy is an absolute legend as a super fan for the Free Jacks. Really enjoyed talking to Spider. But this guy, man, oh man, didn't realize that we'd get him so soon. Really appreciate his generosity with his time. We've got the CEO of the Free Jacks, a USA Rugby legend, guys, and Alexander Magleby. It is so huge that Mags lend us his time there for that 30 minutes or so. I had Dave jump in on the interview as well to ask some questions. Dave was fired up, baby, about this. I think when we both exited the interview, we were just like, wow, man, that really happened. We just spoke to the CEO of the Free Jacks. So to have it happen so early on is just so awesome. We love the organization. Those guys have been behind us every step of the way. They've really supported us and encouraged us to pursue this. So we couldn't be more thrilled with Mags on the episode here. Episode 4, unbelievable. So you're number 1 in our book, brother. We'll notice here in this episode how smart this guy is. That he didn't get into Dartmouth by accident, guys. Mags is super smart. It rings through in the episode just how intelligent he is. It's great to have in Alexander Magleby steering the ship for the Free Jacks. We are in very good hands. Without further ado, here is Alexander Magleby, Free Jacks, here on the Jacks Rangers. So cool that we can say that.
Huzzah, Rangers. This is Phil Harris. I've got Dave here with us, and boy, we've got a legend here with us today as well. We've got Mags, the CEO of the Free Jacks, Alex Magleby. Mags, we love your social media posts. Very creative stuff on there. Plug your social media and your podcast, please, sir.
At the Free Jacks, we run a few different podcasts. Interesting there, we were starting that whole COVID experience and wanted to make sure we were continuing to build the community and connect the community. So we did some virtual academy things. We had over 1,000 participants on that side of things. And we created 3 different podcasts for kind of 3 different verticals. And what I was tasked with doing was making sure that we were connecting with the sports entertainment community and the business side of things and bringing folks into the sport that way who may not have been exposed to rugby. And so we started Full Contact CEO, and we've had some great, absolutely great guests that come from all kind of different sides of business, sports, entertainment. We're having a lot of these conversations anyway, so we might as well share them. And that's been the really fun part. And, being vulnerable is never easy, but as you are doing with this podcast, it's the hardest thing to do is start, and then to be consistent with it, and with it's awesome. And you're experiencing it right now, and to go through that, it's been a lot of fun, and it continues to be a lot of fun. I had some great interviews over the last couple of weeks. Folks connected to the Free Jacks in various ways. Andy Palmer, kind of a VC guru, but played for Boston, played at Bowdoin, and just an amazing human. Jen Lever, the president of Baxter, is fantastic. And, Baxter, of course, makes our Free Jacks IPA, which is fantastic. And yes, the Coastal Haze is an amazing new addition to the lineup.
It is so
yeah. And Walter Palmer, he's, he was part of the NBA Players Association. Before that, he started a bunch of the players associations in Europe. And he played basketball at Dartmouth, and then for the Jazz and the Mavericks. And he's just also a fantastic human, connected to Boston. That's where he grew up. And so they've been some great ones.
I enjoyed the conversation you had with the commissioner, George Killebrew, and also the one with Jim, the president of this fine beer company right here.
Nice.
Let's crack that bad boy up if you haven't already done it. Yeah.
That's great. All right. Love a podcast like this.
Oh yeah, it's probably.
It's funny. I just went for a run and like a half lift. I'm like, okay, I feel great. I'm fit now. Okay, never in this beer.
That's right.
The math is never quite right, but
but it tastes so much better.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Where are you from?
Originally, I'm Salt Lake City, Utah. I grew up in Salt Lake. My family's been there since 1850, and that's where the Maglebys are all from. And my 5th great grandfather, he came from Denmark, and the area he was from was Magleby. And so when he came over, he was a Hans Olsen. There were so many Olsens who were settling Utah at the time. He changed his last name to Magleby, so we're all kind of related to Hans's progeny. And everybody's kind of gone their different ways, but originally from Utah. And then in high school, I tried to get as far away as I possibly could after high school, and had this romantic idea of coming back east for school. Had played, of course, rugby in high school. So I was pretty lucky being able to come to a place like Dartmouth, who has a great program, but having had that experience with a top high school program before that, which is so cool to see now that those opportunities are a lot more. We need to accelerate that, but that's for boys and girls. But those opportunities were quite rare, 30 years ago. So.
Yeah. So you still live in New Hampshire, right?
Yeah, we're still here.
Hey,
I've been here since the mid 90s and, spattering of opportunities elsewhere, but we always come back. Yeah, this is our home for sure. We're definitely New Englanders. And my wife and I met at school here, and she'd gone to school in New Hampshire in high school. And she spent most of her childhood in New Hampshire as well. So we're New Englanders, and we're really excited to continue to raise our kids here.
Very nice. All right. What's your origin story? Can you tell us about rugby specifically? How did you find it? Did you wanted to join the high school team? Take it from there.
Yeah. So Highland, this is back when USA Rugby had a national championship, and it was a club national championship effectively. High school rugby was actually pretty big in the Salt Lake Valley. There were 5 or 6 pretty good teams, just kind of that we could play against on a regular basis. We had a legendary coach in Larry Galwix who had really built the Highland program, primarily from students from Highland, but we got players from a few different other high schools. And a lot of the guys we had actually played, football against in the fall. Everybody either wrestled, basketball, skied in the winter. And then in the spring for us, a lot of us played rugby. We had 100 guys on the football team, 100 guys on the rugby team. And we were able to, play in national championships and travel the world because of rugby. So again, just very rare opportunity that not a lot of other people had. But it was a performance program, just like we did in high school football. It was 5 days a week. It was film study. We did scouting of the opposition. We were running 2 miles a day outside of practice in our own fitness regime. It was intense in a very positive way.
Very cool. You've been so successful as a coach at Dartmouth and of course with the USA Eagles. Was there any desire whatsoever of coaching this team?
No, actually, I've loved coaching. I still love coaching, but the really opportunity why I had left kind of coaching the national team, because there were some opportunities to affect change in other ways. And not to say that I'd been there, done that, but I was looking for that next challenge. And that's, I had the opportunities to be involved as the GM for USA Rugby. That was still very rugby focused, player personnel and pathways and those kind of systems and budgets around that. And fundraising around that. But what I really wanted to do is be able to connect the two sides, the two cultures, the sports side, the rugby side, and the business side. That's an experience I hadn't really had or been a part of, where those two things are unified and kind of the brand is part of all of it. And that was really exciting, because I think what we're trying to do, and we know it's a long process, is really use rugby as a tool to help build better communities and better people. And the business has to be successful for that to happen. So we're, working pretty hard to try to make that happen, but to connect the two and kind of have a connection between the two so they're not two distinct cultures was really, really important. A challenge for me, an exciting challenge for me.
Gotcha. All right, I got one more for you before Dave takes over with some questions here. What's a day in the life of Mags, the CEO, look like?
Yeah, I don't think there's can I have a sip of beer first? They're all different. You try to keep a fairly clear schedule of things you just got to knock out throughout any given week, like anybody in a position of management or anything else is, every Monday morning, our merch numbers are reported, ticketing numbers are reported, food and bev numbers are reported, all those things, social media. So I have a dashboard that brings all that in. So I built a dashboard that brings all that in so I can see where we are. Are we green? Why are we green? Are we red? Why are we red? So just, everybody kind of in charge of a different department is doing those reports. There's about 8 KPIs we look at over a year as a company. Rugby is only one of those, not to diminish that. Rugby is actually the engine. It's the most important part in a lot of ways to drive this thing forward. But for us to be successful, we have to make sure we're increasing the audience size. We have to make sure that we're generating revenue through the various stools of revenue generation. Ticket sales, sponsorship, other event specific stuff, merchandise, all those things that play a part of it, but then also help develop more audience, the media and the marketing. And then like we alluded to earlier, the community piece is really important to us. And so how do we build out academy that is both participatory and then also has a focus on performance, and how do we then start developing our foundation to make sure we're in a position to affect other things. We just signed an agreement with 1% for the planet that we're really excited about, and that can not only help in terms of we get to choose various environmentally conscious groups to help support, whether that's providing high quality food in urban settings, or making sure we're helping to support through awareness, cleaner oceans, whatever the case may be. Doing those kind of things are really, really important to the organization, bringing awareness, but also then driving our behaviors. Okay, at our stadiums, how do we reduce waste, and all those pieces to it is another big piece component. And then it's the rugby. Okay, and then the rugby piece is, could we be competitive? And I would say that we're certainly competitive, and that's what we're trying to do, and represent our fans and our community to make them really proud. And that's performance on the field and behaviors off of it as well.
Very nice. Dave, you're up.
Awesome. Thank you. Really great to hear. The first question I'll give you, you may not have an immediate answer, but you can ruminate a little bit if one doesn't come to mind, because I don't want to put you on the spot. But it's, if you could poach one American-born player and one international player from any team in MLR, all other considerations aside, who would you pick? Who's somebody who kind of has caught your eye this season?
Yeah, I think there's a handful of players that are fantastic, and for various reasons, and you would pick them for various reasons. And there's a long litany of those type of players. You just start San Diego with Nate. He's injured now, Nate Augsburger, but he's a heck of a leader. Yep. Drives things, and you just keep going through Mikey Teo at Utah, and just the way Mikey not only plays but his behaviors as well. He's also a tremendous leader through a lot of his actions on the field. And you can go through each team and find a handful of players like that. Nate Brakeley, obviously, at New York, and Nate and I go way back, and just a fantastic human, and really smart player, but hardworking. All those kind of pieces that you would want. You saw Bryce play this weekend for Austin, and his ability to win the contact point is something that's pretty special. And so you could create a compelling group that you certainly would want, for sure.
Awesome. You talked a little bit about coaching before. I'm familiar too with the feeling of being kind of glad to have left it behind. It's a lot of work, and it's a really unique role. When I started, there was a lot for me to learn as a coach. I'm sure the situation was similar for you, but was there an area that you felt really comfortable coaching to a high level initially? Like, what was your wheelhouse as a coach?
Yeah, I was really lucky because I came back to the institution that I'd gone to college at, and I was playing 6 months of the year, basically for the US 15s and 7s. And then the other 6 months of the year I was coaching. And at the time, so this is the early 2000s, I'm kind of getting the best case practices that we can create at the US level, and being able to quickly digest those and then share them with our team. And there was a massive transformation happening in rugby in this country at the time. The collegiate game was starting to professionalize. We all started as kind of volunteers, and that really, you picked up the pace as the game really became professionalized. What I mean by that, staffing became professionalized, and athletic trainers. And so I was very early on in that process. And so Dartmouth, for a lot of ways, was a laboratory for me, where parents didn't know the sport that well. So I wasn't getting phone calls, why aren't you doing this? And we had a very supportive board, and willing to kind of help me grow as a coach, and nurture me through. And my previous coach there, Wayne Young, and a few others were really fantastic mentors. And so I had that opportunity that a lot of coaches don't necessarily get, and they don't necessarily get today if they're kind of immediately in a performance coaching position, because it's like you got to win or whatever the KPIs are for that team. Yeah. Now you don't have that much chance to experiment, where I really had this laboratory at Dartmouth, and I continue to stay connected to the program as an advisor. That was fantastic. So I could challenge my own assumptions and all of those pieces. At the same time, I'd really gotten into video analysis. So this early 2000s, kind of pre-Moneyball days, and actually started a company around it. And we were really selling to ice hockey, soccer, field hockey, lacrosse, basketball were kind of our main clients for their flow sports, but I use it for rugby. And that to me was the greatest coaching tool, because you didn't get quality control. There wasn't 5 other coaches to help kind of noodle on ideas. So you really had to do the quality control yourself and assess what was happening. But by going through that process, long weekends of 36 plus hours of being in front of a computer and figuring out what stats actually told the right picture and why are we having, line out success if that's purely based on line outs. One, what's the reason for that? What's the reasons for that? What's the reasons for that? And kind of asking the 5 whys of Kaizen. And I was having those experiences. So I wouldn't ever say, to going back to your original question about one area, I quickly had to learn the whole thing, but I had the luxury of being able to learn the whole thing. And what I mean by that is coach all positions. And, you'd referenced Total Rugby on one of the podcasts before. And yeah, that's kind of always been the style of Dartmouth. You may be bigger than us, but you may be faster than us, or whatever it is. What's the saying? You may be bigger than us, but at least we're slower than you. Yeah. Yeah. So, but it was always like, try to move the ball and kind of running type of rugby. And so I was in that position, so I could do that. I could experiment, and that was pretty cool.
Very cool.
How about you?
Oh, I somewhat similarly, but at a different scale, moved within my own club, right? So I also knew kind of the structures, and I had a lot of backing from the powers that be, the board. And the letter I wrote where I said, I'll be an interim coach for 1 half season because we don't have one and the season starts in 2 weeks and I have my certification, I said that our rucking was really bad. And I knew that if there was one thing I could do, I could make sure that we actually got to keep the ball when we were on attack, and that was going to be my goal. So that's what I went in focusing on, and focused on it. I had, I was never a very active referee, but I am a dork. So I really liked the laws. I really wanted to know what can you do and what can't you do, And so I focused on the laws at the breakdown and just making sure that every player understood when they had a right to steal the ball and what they had to do to stop the other team from, having that right.
And the interpretation of the laws at the time, right?
It was right as they had changed a lot of those breakdown laws, actually. So it really actually gave me a good platform because the players were naturally curious to learn. They knew there'd been big changes, so they wanted to know what was different and what wasn't. The biggest being that the tackler was not automatically onside anymore, right? So it used to be you could just stand up and steal the ball. If you tackled the guy, it didn't matter where you were. That's your ball unless somebody comes and rucks you out.
How enjoyable is coaching? It's fantastic to just be part of that learning process with others. I think that's probably a human nature as we see with parenting and everything else, but to be able to be a part of somebody else's learning experience and you're learning as they're learning, it's a very cool process to be a part of. So I do miss that kind of day-to-day and those relationships for sure.
Yeah, it could be very humbling too. I very quickly learned to listen to my players and to just stop doing things that weren't working. Like, we'll try that again in a week. We're going to move on to the next thing. I got some changes to make.
No, but it's a brilliant idea. But it doesn't work.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Trust me. Trust me.
Just do it.
Staying on coaching a little bit, I have absolutely loved watching the team that Ryan Martin is putting on the field. And I was curious what the process for finding him was like, and specifically how big was the candidate pool and how quickly did the organization hone in on him as the kind of solution?
Yeah. So to your first point, it's a really fun team to watch. Ryan and Tom and James and everybody else on the coaching staff, along with those players and a lot of the returning players from last year, Josh Bodine, they've really driven a culture of hard work and adaptability. And I think you see that in how they play. Pretty gritty, which is awesome. We went through this process, last spring, summer. That was primarily driven by Tom. Tom Kindly is our performance manager, and is one who's been with us now for a couple of years and been developing in various aspects of his skill set, analytics, but has an S&C background, and this was really Tom's big first project to own. And he did a bang up job. It was highly professional, and we had candidates from all over the world, very high qualified candidates who were interested in this position, whether that was through their own application or through their agents. And pretty rigorous process where they were having to submit their coaching philosophy, demonstrations of their pedagogical skill, all those things. And we had multiple rounds where we finally got to the point where Ryan really was the exact right fit we were looking for. He was a teacher by training and by experience, 17 years teaching. He had also coached at all different levels. And as what we're trying to build here is, yes, your senior head coach really needs to be focused on the performance of the senior, team. But at the same time, there are a lot of opportunities to affect other coaches at various levels, as well as other players at various levels, which was a really important part to the ecosystem that we want to grow. And that was what we wanted. We also wanted somebody who was a very good teacher of those performance players at the highest level. And, Ryan's, has a very good demonstration of that through time past. And that really came through the many interviews and everything else. And, very happy and proud of how that process went and how well Tom did leading that. And, we're really excited and happy that Ryan's here, and we just want to keep building.
Excellent. Yeah, he really every time I've seen him, whether it's in the interviews with Dallin or some of the coaching aids that you guys have put out to the community, he really always strikes me as someone. All coaches have opinion, but I think he has answers. He speaks with a credibility that you can just tell from his bearing, and that 17 years teaching maybe is part of the
and there's some confidence there because he's gone through that probably same iteration and question and asked that same question from various ways 10 different times, so fairly confident in understanding how the answer came about in the first place, which is really important.
Awesome. You talked about culture a little bit, and I think the character of the team is something that the whole organization can be tremendously proud of, the way that they have fought back over and over this season. You could point to any number of examples: poaching the ball on the 5-meter line when you're down 2 guys, down in, I think that was Houston. You said grit. Absolutely. Who are some of the drivers of that character? Obviously your captains, but who's somebody who the fans might be sleeping on because we're not in the locker room, who's really pushing that humility?
I think there's a really good group of kind of, there's a lot of leaders on this team. I think that's how Ryan and Tom really recruited. And then, they would kind of pass them through me at the end of the day, but they were the ones driving that. And that's the team that they really wanted to drive towards, which are, our company goals overall is, we got to make sure we're humble. We got to make sure we're hungry. And we want to make sure that we enjoy this, that we have a bit of fun. And the really important thing then as we're recruiting anybody, whether it's in the front office side or on the rugby side, staff or players, is that, that humble, are they going to be willing to put the community first through their behaviors, right? It doesn't mean that they're not really important and everything else, but can they make sure and have an awareness of others around them and really drive that the community and the team kind of come first. And, and kind of in that order, community, team, and then kind of ourselves. And then that hungry part is really important because that's not only that work rate you see, but it's also execution. At the end of the day, you got to find a way to get it done, and you got to adapt in order to get it done. You can't just confuse effort with accomplishment, right? At the end of the day, you got to be hungry enough to find a different way if it's not working. And that was an important part of the recruiting process. And then also to be able to have a laugh and understand time and place. And that's really important too, that this is sport and we need to enjoy it. And more importantly, it's rugby, and rugby is fun. And that's why I've been involved with rugby, 3+ decades, is because it's just fun, right? It's just a fun game. It's fun to play. It's fun to coach. It's fun to ref. It's fun to watch. It's just fun to be around. And that's the really cool thing. So we want to make sure that happened. And so, I think there's a handful of players that were here last year that are helping to drive that. Obviously look no further than Josh, who's really stepped up as a captain. Bodine, and there's others in that group. But then you just watch how some of the players play on the field and how gritty they are. You got to look at the loose forwards. That group is, if someone had picked at the beginning of the year kind of who are going to be the loose forwards of the MLR, you probably wouldn't have said on paper you're going to pick those 3 because a lot of it was unknown. With JJ and then Vian, and they're playing at an absurd level, all 3 of them, for various reasons. Justin's straight out of college, and he's cemented himself as this high quality starter and gain line and everything else and options throughout the field. Joe, of course, just devastating over the ball, fantastically so.
Yeah,
kind of everywhere, classic open side, not afraid to put his head in places, and he's just doing fantastic. And Vian is, at that kind of super rugby level play. He's that try he scored off the back of the scrum was a thing of brilliance. You're seeing a lot of that. Yeah,
he's a force. I was just going to
exactly.
say he is a guy who can combine with anyone on the pitch
then you
and really
pick
get
it-
things done.
Yeah, but then you go kind of throughout the team, and you're like, okay, well, everybody's Dougie's for his tries, but you look how Dougie plays and how much he's hustling on defense and making his tackles, and that's the stuff that's awesome. Harry, how hard is it to tackle Harry because he's continuing to drive, he's finding a way to get that gain line. It's like that's what we need, and that's a New England team, right? If you were to be like, okay, pick a perfect New England team, what kind of behaviors would they have? They would have that. And then there's probably some pieces there that we still need to add and improve on and execute on. And you'd say a New England team, historically is also going to have a pretty dominant set piece. Okay, well, we're working towards that. And I think if you looked at our scrums in general, they have been dominant based on but we haven't managed the pictures that the referee was seeing as well as we should have.
Yeah, I agreed.
But there's some high quality scrummagers there, and lineout has been a bit off at times for probably where we want it, and where a team in New England probably would be like, oh yeah, we're gonna have a lot of pride in that. But you look at the mall defense has been pretty stellar, and that certainly attack mall has been fantastic. So you'd pick those things for sure about a team that would represent New England. They'd have those behaviors. So I think in that regard, they're moving in the right direction.
Yeah,
sure.
and smart. I would call the team very smart, very New England in that regard. Got some MIT level thinking around the line out. Going up against
we got it.
this weekend. Exactly. Got the right call there. Everybody did exactly what they needed to do to get the obstruction call on the unopposed line out. It was really, really great.
Yeah, and you pick your poison on the team. I mean, Peter at hooker. I mean, again, another potentially world-class type of player, and he's a massive leader and teaching the younger guys how to be a professional. And you see how he plays. So you just keep going. Seth, and there's a long list of guys. Then you take the younger guys like Jackson, younger American guys, Phoebus, and he's playing lights out. Jackson's always had that work ethic. He's always been a student of the game, so it's always like Jackson's going to get there. And I think the world is now starting to see what we knew and where Jackson's going. And massive hat tip to him because the work he's been doing is fantastic.
Yeah, he's very consistent in and out. You could tell that it's just part of who he is. Excellent. Well, that was my last serious question. I think we have a few gassers lined up.
Yeah, just to save time, I don't want to spend too much of your time, Mags. There, we're going to skip over to one-word association.
Okay.
So, what do you think about Dallin?
The best.
All right.
Hilarious. Who'd you say? Woodgie, big and blue and mischievous. I can only give one answer. Is that one word?
Yeah, one word.
I always cheat. Anytime we pick one thing, I pick 2 to 3. So you're good.
Mischievous.
There you go. Waka.
Electric.
Rooney.
Steelers owner. There's so many other things I wanted to say besides New York.
Guiltinis.
What is that? What is that?
LA Guiltinis, yeah.
Oh, no, yeah, that's my answer. What is that?
Remains to be seen.
Yeah.
Dave, I think you got a couple wrong answers only.
Awesome. Yeah, I want to do something a little silly. Wrong answers only.
Okay.
If Eric de Jager and Ronan McCusker hit each other as hard as they could, how far away would you need to be safe, do you think?
Yeah, like Jupiter style.
Yeah, that's definitely in orbit at least.
Yeah. As my 5-year-old's telling me, no, Pluto's a dwarf planet, Dad. It's not a real planet anymore.
Right. Update your acronyms.
Exactly.
There's no P at the end.
Yeah. So like, darn it.
Love it. Awesome. Well, that's it for me, Max.
Oh, that was great. I thought I was gonna get like peppered with these.
No, I
was like, come on, keep going. I'm ready.
All right, that's gonna wrap her up, guys.
That's amazing. Phil, thank you. Dave, thank you.
Thank you,
Phil. I think you were like one of our first fans. Like, I think you were like.
I was so early on, man.
I think you're like top 5, top 10 in the first ticket purchasing for
number 4. Look at that.
Awesome. And then also on the merch side, I think you're one of the first to get merch. I think that back then, like the first 100 people, I had a chance to like write a letter to just say thanks because I was like, awesome, you believe in this, which is great. And so I was so psyched when I saw that you are starting to do the pod. It's really cool. That's really, really cool. David, how did Free Jacks Ho go this weekend? Did we get it in a few times?
I didn't get it in this time. I keep trying to find a good spot, but I did get the huzzas going.
That's great.
Got a bunch of signatures as well. But we had a critical scrum there in the second half, and I managed to stand up and say, let's get some huzzas going for the pack. So that's the building
I love
block.
it. I heard some
this
huzzas. Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll get the Free Jacks Ho.
What do you think about the national anthem? How do we do this? Because I'm hearing all sides of it. Some folks are like, no, this should be entirely sung by everybody in the crowd. Okay, awesome, love that. Should we have background music to it or no? I think that was like we were, half pregnant in that situation on the weekend.
Yeah, I think with a crowd that big, the problem becomes keeping everybody in the same time, like in rhythm.
Yeah.
It's a section.
So
until we have a video board, we can't. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Background music will do it, I think, right? Because if you get the background going, people know how to sing along to the accompaniment.
Yeah.
So maybe background music without lyrics and get it started and let the crowd take it away.
Okay.
That'd be maybe that's my bet.
Me too.
Okay. Cool. Someone else said that the music was too loud. Was that acute? Was that localized, or was that around the whole environment?
I only was in the main stands. I didn't get up into the militia area. But for most of that, I'd say it's true. The volume is pretty high.
Okay.
And it could probably come down a little bit.
I agree. Yep.
Makes it it's just a little bit too loud to talk.
Okay.
So you end up yelling.
And the whole point is to connect.
That's and the other thing is like cheering on. I'm yelling people's names, right? The guys are lining up for kickoffs, and I'm telling them good job from the stands. But it's hard to make yourself known in that way too, a little bit, where like you want to support the team, vocally, but you feel a little bit drowned out by the music.
Yeah.
Okay. That's really helpful.
Yeah, but it's been great. The live band was awesome. I really enjoyed that.
Foxy's fantastic.
Yeah, I took some pictures and sent them on to the family, bringing the family to the next game, and I can't wait.
All right, gents.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you again, Mags.
This is awesome.
This is great. We'll have
Be well. I'm gonna go finish this Free Jacks IPA.
Let's do it. Huzzah!
Cheers. Huzzah.
Cheers.
Wow. How about that? That was so awesome, guys. Tell us what you think about the Mags interview. Send us an email at jacksrangershow@gmail.com is the place to find us, and leave us your questions, comments, input on the show, what needs to be taken out, what needs to be added in the Jacks Rangers show. Send us that email, send us a message on Facebook, DM us on Twitter and Instagram. Let us know what you think of the show. Always open to feedback, of course. We appreciate it. All right, we're going to jump right into the next little interview that we have here with our buddy, Scott Ferrara. He is known as the Big Guy. Scott, he has a great following with the Rugby Rant podcast. And at this point, he's got the Roosters Boosters podcast as well. He's one of the big super fans of Rooney. So we appreciate the banter and the rivalry, of course, with the Dirt Peckers, as I like to call them, the New Jersey Dirt Peckers. So we're going to jump right into this with our interview with Scott. We're going to learn a little bit more about Rooney, the next opponent for the Free Jacks, in our rivalry week podcast number 4 here. So let's get the ball rolling. If you guys heard the bell earlier, that is my cat Morty, who has jumped up into my lap. Morty is the unofficial mascot of the Jacks Rangers show. She is a rescued black cat, so she is lucky in our eyes over here, and she's purring in my lap. So we're going to jump right into the interview here with Scott, the Big Guy Ferrara. Here we go. Rooney sucks.
Huzzah, Rangers. This is Phil Harris again here at the Jacks Rangers show. I've got my buddy Scott, the Big Guy Ferrara, the New York Rooney super fan. Scott, we've got a beer here.
Yes.
Let's crack this bad boy open. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So glad to have you on here. You've been a big supporter of ours from the very beginning. Very helpful with advice. Plug your podcast and your social media, my friend.
Sure. So first, I'll talk about the Rugby Rant podcast show. You guys can check that out every Monday night live on our Facebook. We do an interview generally with a player, administrator, or coach within the MLR right now because we're in the season. And then you can check out our rants, which drop Thursday nights on our Facebook or Friday on the Rugby Network. We just got on the Rugby Network. Again, that's the Rugby Rant podcast show at Rugby Rant on all social media. And then I don't know if you guys will want to watch, but I also do the Rooney show. It's called Rooster Booster Time. We do a show every Tuesday night, which would have been last night. We talk about the previous match. We interview a player. This week it was Ben Benasso. Then we preview the upcoming match. And then we also do a pre-match show. So guys, next week, come up, check out our Facebook page at RUNY Fans, and you can see the pregame show we're going to do live from Cochrane Field about the Free Jacks and RUNY.
That's awesome, man. I know that we got some Free Jacks fans, some Rangers going to be coming down there to visit with you guys.
Oh, real quick, and I want to mention, it's going to be hot. The concessions will not be open. So my suggestion is for those of you who have not been to Cochrane Stadium, bring a lot of drinks, bring a lot of food. Alcohol is prohibited. It's a city field.
Oh.
Also, it's by Liberty State Park, so there's not a lot of like gas stations and things like that. I expect on a Sunday New Jersey traffic to be crazy. So I would suggest before you get to the field, maybe gas up and have a full tank. So that way, if you're leaving, I don't know how long of a ride you guys might be going into Western Mass or, closer to Boston or whatever, wherever you live. So that's just my advice to you guys. I am not sure about tailgating. By the time this show airs, I should have an answer, and I will share that with Phil so that way he can let you guys know.
We appreciate that, my friend. That's great advice. That's really good information, insider information there from Scott. So where are you from, my friend?
So I'm originally from New Rochelle, New York. So New Rochelle is about, 30 minutes if you drove with no traffic to Times Square, right above the Bronx. People are like, "Oh, that's upstate." I'm like, the Bronx is right there. It's a 30-minute train ride into Grand Central from New Rochelle. I currently live in Carmel, which is about an hour north of that.
Okay.
Still in New York, born and bred, and as of right now, we're planning to stay here.
Very cool. What is your origin story with rugby? How did you find rugby?
So I think like a lot of Americans, they either found it through their family or they found it through a friend or somebody. So I was a freshman in 2001 high school. I was a freshman in high school. Spring semester, we had an English teacher. He wore an All Blacks jersey to class. I think that's how a lot of Americans get into it, right? Is the especially back then it was Tri-Nations, right? So
yep.
Like, what are the All Blacks? What the hell is this? And he's explaining the game to me and this, that, and the other thing, telling me where I could watch it. And back then, oh man, you would have to watch, like, you would order a match. Let's say you could pick up one of the Tri-Nations match online on say tantasports.com for like $80. So, that was one of those, like, I'd have to tell my parents like 3 weeks in advance, hey, I'm going to spend $80 on the credit card.
Yeah.
So nobody stole it. It's going to look weird saying tantasports.com. What the hell is that? To watch one match of a Tri-Nations match or one match of a World Cup match. And, depending on, I think St. Tanta only gave you a 24-hour replay. So sometimes you'd be up watching like, Georgia versus Namibia because that was the one match you could watch and still make, classes on time. But that's how I kind of got interested in rugby. As far as playing, I think, again, like most American kids, went to college. We're not considered a Division I NCAA sport. So for me, I was at UMass Dartmouth, for you Jacks Rangers who might know, over there in North Dartmouth, Massachusetts, right by New Bedford off of 195. We were Division IV Nerf at the time, and just like every other rugby club I know, anybody can play, just show up and play. So I started and played 4 years there. Very
cool. My fraternity has a charge there. We don't call them chapters, it's charges, Theta Delta Chi there at UMass Dartmouth. Yep. Let's see here. Where does your passion for RUNY come from?
Well, obviously, you almost like soccer fans, here in the United States, you had to pick international teams before the MLS got broadcast the way it did, right? And before the teams, like New York was lucky enough in soccer to have, the Metro Stars in the 70s and 80s, and then, they came back in the 90s and then turned to the Red Bulls. Now they have two, so the same thing with rugby. You had to pick international teams. So obviously, I had a team for Super Rugby. I had a team for this. I had a team for that. And having those passions in rugby just obviously, as soon as I said there was going to be a team in New York, if I was here, I was going to stick with it.
Yep.
And it just grew. I mean, besides outside of rugby, I'm a Green Bay Packers shareholder, so I'm an owner. I'm a diehard Rangers fan, diehard University of Michigan fan. I can watch University of Michigan play. I watch women's gymnastics. I watch men's water polo if it's on Big Ten. I mean, I'm a diehard New York Mets fan. I'm just a sports fan. It's funny. My dad played college hockey and taught me how to play hockey, but my mom taught me how to hockey fight. So I think I get that from her. Yeah, I get that mania from her. And going from the pro rugby, I watched pro rugby, and the East, as far east as they went, as everybody may or may not know, I don't know how new your fans are, was Ohio. Right. And being a Michigan fan, I hate everything about Ohio. As a matter of fact, I still tell Dylan Fawcett, who was an Ohio Aviator, I was like, I love you and we're friends and everything, but I hate that you played for the Aviators. So I had my passion for rugby in a pro team. I picked Sacramento Express, and I've been lucky enough to Kyle Sumption was on that team. Harry Bennett was on that team. John Quinn was on that team, and those guys played for RUNY. And it was funny enough that they come play for RUNY. I start this whole thing, and I get to meet those guys that I was fanboying out with, 2 or 3 years ago, or now it's 5 years ago. Holy crap.
One of the previous interviews that we had on the show, Ross, who's a relatively new watcher of rugby, he started with pretty much pro rugby. And he was like, guys, don't ever complain about the rugby network, because we were watching games on Facebook Live back then. Yikes.
Well, yeah. Well, on MLR in 2019, the AGs were on Facebook Live. Rugby ATL in 2020 was on Facebook Live. There's a lot of Facebook Live viewing, and international viewers before there was TRN. International viewers would get it on YouTube and Facebook Live for free before they did the TRN thing. So you might be new to MLR, but us old MLR stalwarts, we're hitting that also. So, I can't complain about any of the broadcasts, to be honest.
What is RUNY's team identity? And I'm not talking about the branding, because that has changed a couple times and probably should change again. Just, a little bit of banner there. But what's the team identity?
So every year they go through and they pick a new thing, right? So the first year, it was kind of a twofold. For the team identity, it was Unite the Empire, and the actual team, the word was concrete. Everything they wanted to do was like concrete. They wanted to have a concrete understanding of how they were playing. They wanted to play as hard as concrete on defense. They wanted to have hits that when you hit somebody, it felt like concrete. So that was the concrete portion. The Unite the Empire portion is, I think rugby everywhere is very tribal, and there's a lot of I guess the word now is gatekeeping going on in the rugby community, especially back then. And RUNY was Rugby United New York was uniting the empire of Empire State, the big five teams, to come together to say, hey, we want you to be feeder teams. We want you to be involved. At the time, the first season, they had Tolkien as a coach and Keys Lensing, Mike Tolkien as a coach who was coaching Nyack, one of the two biggest clubs, and Keys Lensing, who was at before then the Old Blue coach, which is the second of the second biggest clubs, co-coaching, and a lot of those Nyack and Old Blue guys were on the team, and some Village Lions were on the team, and some New York Rugby Club guys were on the team, and some White Plains Rugby players were on the team, and that was kind of the Unite the Empire. Gotcha. Last year in that season was the Empire Strikes Back was kind of the thing. Being that, we lost it to death in the semifinals, we wanted to come back and take that shield. And obviously it didn't get to happen in 2020. This year, it's their identity is like the steelworkers. So where they practice in Jersey City, you can see the skyline, and they want to have that workers, bring the lunchbox mentality. So the hashtag I use is RUNY Local 23. So it's supposed to be like a union, RUNY, the local 23 guys on match day. And that's the kind of thing they're putting in, is that like iron worker, blue collar thing this year.
That's cool. Very nice. What does RUNY do well as a team, and what do they need to improve on?
Well, right now, I think they need to improve on their lineouts. And it was funny. We were just talking about that this week on Rooster Booster Time. It's like a throw could be bad on the first one. Okay, it happens. There's a gust of wind or whatever. Then the second one is the lifters messed up. Okay, that happens. And then the third one is it was a blown play. Okay, but add those together, you had 3 bad lineouts and lost possession 3 times. So that I think is a big misstep that they have right now that they need to settle. Considering, Dylan Fawcett led the league in, well, I think he was second in tries in 2019 off of rolling mauls scoring, and I mean, that was something that he was known for. So yeah, we have to get back to that. What I think they've been doing well this year is what I call one and done tackling. So the first guy is making contact and bringing down the ball carrier, while the second guy can jackal or set up the defense depending on what they're trying to do.
Okay. All right. Very nice. What player should the Free Jacks fans be aware of on Rooney if they're not really familiar with your team?
That's a loaded question because Rooney is one of the teams that has some heavy name internationals, and so are the Free Jacks. It's one of those things where there's so many of these internationals coming in on the twilight of their career to throw some years in the MLR, and it's pretty well dispersed. Outside of that, I'll talk about Ben Foden. Obviously, if you're new to rugby, Ben Foden, Saints out in the Premiership. Played, he was number 9 on England, then moved to fullback on the Roses. Andy Ellis, all black winner, all black World Cup winner 2011 with guys like sports. So those are two big name guys in international rugby. So I'm just gonna break it down even further. Rooney has big name guys from the USA Eagles currently. I mean, Nate Brakely and Nick Savetta are pretty much the starting locks for USA Eagles. Kyle Sumption, a former USA Eagle. Hank O is the starting flanker for the USA Eagles. Look at Ben Bonasso and Charlie Hewitt probably getting call-ups from the USA Eagles. Chris Martina was a Falcon, an Eagle Sevens player. I'm probably Luke Hume was a USA Eagle. So it depends on your level. But a guy I think that you should watch out for, Will Leonard. Dude's built like a beer keg, plays center from Limerick, Ireland. He has been the best tackler on Rooney, I would say. He was on the team in 2019, all 3 years. The dude runs hard. He does have a step that he's one of those guys. He can run fast and knock you over, or he can hit you with a step that you weren't prepared for. But it's defense. He prides himself on just snot bubble hitting defense.
Nice. Very cool. Who has the best hair on Rooney?
So this was hotly debated. Another one that we actually asked. That's a question we ask on our show that we love. And so far, we've gotten 2 answers. One is a kind of a cheeky answer, and the other 50% is the real answer. So the real answer is Ben Bonasso. He has this awesome mullet that he's been sporting that Conor McManus tried to copy, and then Ben was doing so well with it that Conor McManus cut it. And then the cheeky answer for all you guys is actually Luke Hume. If you don't know, Luke is bald. He's always kind of been bald. They call him the bald eagle. Yeah. Like legit, because he played on the Eagles and he was bald, they call him the bald eagle. And so a lot of guys, when we say best haircut, they take the cheeky answer and say Luke. And
he's a local product, right? He played it in New York clubs, there, right?
Yeah. He was a New York club stalwart, and been in this country for a long time. I've been watching him play for. I can't even count the years. Yeah. And, didn't play last year. He had a catastrophic ankle injury at the end of 2019, took off 2020. And then they were like, hey, you have an opportunity to come back if you want. And he took it. And he's fun to watch. He's one of those guys that he's so old and cheeky. You don't know what he's going to do. You would think he would just run forward, and you think he would know the defender is the best sideline. He'll just grubber kick around you. And just try and outpace you and completely surprise you in what he's going to do. And that's what makes it exciting to watch him play.
Yeah. He's a good little player for sure. What team or teams do you dislike in MLR and why?
I got to be honest. I don't dislike teams right now. Okay, let's get that straight. If there's a team in Ohio, I will completely dislike it because, like I said, I can't deal with Ohio. It's an Ohio-Michigan thing. I just can't deal with that team down south, that state down south, the whole 9 yards. But this is how I feel about it. I don't, do I want the Free Jacks to win? No, obviously. When they're playing Rooney, no. Yep. If the Free Jacks are playing guilt teams, I like to see the Eastern Conference be the best conference, which is the same philosophy I have in my football. Do I want the Bears to beat Green Bay? No. But if the Bears are playing the Chargers, I'll root for the Bears. I hate the Bears, but you know what? They're playing out of conference and out of division. So why not have them win? So that's kind of my mindset. I'm not very vindictive. I'm that guy. I'm going to hate you guys for 80 minutes, in between the whistles, and then grab a beer with you guys after.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's all about banter and having fun, and rivalry is going to be a part of. It's going to be a part of MLR. It already is. I mean, if you bring in the Boston region, New England, and you've got a New York team, listen, it's gonna be there's gonna be some butting of heads just because there's so much tradition. It's so close to each other. Boston, New York.
Well, I think it kind of fell out. You know, I think if COVID hadn't have happened, how I feel it would have shaken out, and this is just obviously purely hypothetical, it would have been more regional, to be honest. I think you guys would have had more of a Toronto derby. We would have had more of a DC derby, and NOLA Atlanta have their natural derby until their teams come in. You know, as soon as there's a Philly team, New England drops off that New York rivalry because New York and Philly is a huge rivalry in football, in hockey, in basketball, and in baseball. I mean, you know, because they're always in the same division conferences versus, you know, New England football. You know, honestly, you know, I know a lot of Giants fans don't like the Patriots. To be honest, my father's a Giants fan. He's like, I could care less about the Patriots because they're in the AFC.
Okay.
You know, so
I don't know. I got to disagree with you there. I mean, I just don't see us having a big problem with Toronto. I understand that they're kind of local. You can jump on a flight and get there in an hour from Boston. But yeah, I mean, listen, there's always going to be a thing with New York and Boston and New England rather. So yeah, we don't like you guys as much. But hey, again, you know, at the end of the game, we'll shake hands or, you know, COVID safe stuff.
It's rugby, man.
It's all about, exactly.
Like I mentioned on Facebook, anybody who's going to the game, you'll see me. I'll have my sign. I'll be on the far side 40, you know, because it's on a football field. I'll be front row. Come say hi to me. You're seeing what I look like. I want to take pictures with you guys. I want to put it on the social media. You know, I want to meet you guys. I want to talk about you guys. I want to know how your trip was. You know, I love meeting, especially now because we're such a young league. I feel like some of this hatred and stuff you see with, like, you know, Eagles fans hating everybody, legitimately hating anybody. First of all, that's not rugby culture. Mm-hmm. Secondly, I want to embrace you as a fan. I want to thank you for taking the time to come because you know what? We didn't have rugby. You know, Rooney didn't have any home matches last season, just like New England did. I'm not counting the Vegas matches as home matches. Okay. You know, so I appreciate you guys are making the trip down here now that we can safely do it.
For sure. Yeah. So before the game, there's a little trash talking, but after the game, we're all brothers. That's the way to look at it. For sure. Yeah. No real hatred, just some banter. That's all it is, guys. So moving right along here to the score prediction. Where do you stand?
I said on my show, I'm going to say Rooney by 10. And what I'm going to say is, for those of you that me, I watch all the MLR matches. So I'm kind of current into what's going on. You might not be if you're just a New England fan or if you're new to it, you know, what have you. So Rooney has played a lot of teams where in the prior match, it's been like a weird outcome for that team. So for example, they when Rooney played NOLA the week before, NOLA had tied a match, right? So that's going to get you amped up as NOLA to win the match. And guess what? They came out on fire and had a 30-point lead in the first 20 minutes. Mm-hmm. You know, Rooney played a Toronto team that was just on a 3-game win streak and kicking everybody's butt. This week, we're playing a Free Jacks team who went toe-to-toe with Atlanta, and because of discipline, lost it in the last 10 minutes.
That's right.
So in my head, it's the first 20 minutes of this game that you guys are going to come out and punch us in the mouth. Now, whether or not you can sustain that type of energy throughout the game, you know, is rugby. But I think if Rooney can weather the first 20 minutes, I think the next 60 minutes, Rooney can open it up. So I'm going to say Rooney by 10.
Okay. With this Free Jacks teams, we've seen them, you know, open up a lead on teams like Houston very early on in that game. And that's what I'm hoping happens here, but I'm not entirely sure that that's how it's going to be. If New York wants to grind it out, I think we might have a bit of a problem. Our forwards need to step up in that circumstance for sure. I have all the confidence in the world in our backs right now because they don't make me feel like I shouldn't have confidence in them. It's the forwards that I'm a little worried about. Our lineouts have been not great with overthrows in big moments of the game towards the end of the game. So my key to the game, in the episode before this interview was the forwards need to shake themselves out here and sort themselves out rather, and make sure that they are doing everything that they possibly can do to make sure that we win the game if New York wants to grind it out via an LA type game situation. I am picking the Free Jacks to win by 3 points. It's going to be very close in my opinion. That's I've got New England 24, New York 21. So it's a nail biter.
I'd say probably a 40-point over under. is about right. So I think also, what you going back to the Houston match, Houston's 9-10 connection really wasn't there. And after that match, all of a sudden Nick Boyer comes in and Houston turned it on for 2 straight wins, scoring, I think, over 50 points at both. Or it might not have been 2 straight wins. It might have been a win and then that close one against the Giltinis. So I don't know if that's necessary. I mean, your offense definitely ran on them, but I don't know defensive wise if it was indicative of your defense playing so great or Houston not having the jump on that one. But you guys, I that's what I said in Rooster Booster time. If you guys can slow it down and grind it out the way we did to LA, it'll definitely be a close match. If you guys open up holes, we have guys like Quinn Nawadi, Fossey Fuatai, Will Leonard, Joel Miranda, Apanisa Kakabalavu, who are guys like Appy, Fossey, are sevens guys, so if you open a hole, they're gone. Quinn is a rugby league guy. If there's an open hole, he's gone. So, if you guys can maintain your defensive line and shut our back line down, not open up those holes, it's definitely going to be a slug match.
For sure. That's what I'm anticipating, a slobber knocker, as they say. So I've got one word association, then we'll get you out of here. Jersey City.
Gabagool.
Okay. Sopranos.
Gabagool. There you go.
AFC.
The Colonel.
Okay. Jack's Rangers.
Meh.
Free Jacks. Okay. Bastaro.
He's the man. Real quick. He still follows Rooney on social media. So he comments. First of all, I gotta say, everybody, we want to talk about guys coming over and having these big personas. First time I met him, shook my hand, was like, "You want a picture? You want an autograph?" The guys have told me what you do. I want to, be part of it. Unfortunately, I didn't get to interview him because the season ended. They went and played against San Diego. The San Diego fans wanted pictures. He took a picture with everybody. They wanted autographs. I heard he was giving out autographs to everybody. So that's why I say he was so nice to me. He was so nice to all the fans. He's the man.
Perfect. That was not one word, but I appreciate the clarification there. Giltinis. All right.
I mean, Giltinis, I'm one of those guys. I like the colors they're doing with the white kits and the black kits and the day glow stuff. Obviously their style of play is awesome. Could care less about the name, to be quite honest. There's different facets about every team that I'm sure they want to take away. Like, maybe a certain team doesn't want to go with a Sasquatch thing that'll scare, put nightmares in kids or whatever, but
All right. I mean, do you guys have a mascot yet? I don't think so, right?
No, we really didn't have a mascot. I mean, we are self-called the Roosters.
Right, of course.
And that again, to talk about Luke Hume. So originally they had more of Mets colors and, big orange and reds. And Luke Hume was like, we look like Roosters. And the guys kind of took that persona on of just as a joke. And they even had like the hand signal, with the thing. And then, so one of the fans, Ski Bailey, was like, well, we should call ourselves Rooster Boosters. So then we took on that persona. And to be honest, the current management is like, we don't get it. It's not a New York thing. And I was like, well, technically it's not a New York City thing, but like I live in Carmel, only an hour away. And I mean, I live behind a farm with chickens and roosters. So it's not, if you go through the rest of New York, it's very farm, has farmland, Western New York, Northern New York. So it's not far fetched as you would think, but
And Rooney Roosters just rolls off the tongue, man. It makes, that's fine.
I mean, I don't think we necessarily need a mascot. We just use the imagery as part of the fan club, but it's,
I think it's great. I mean, as a South Carolina diehard alumni fan for life, Roosters, Gamecocks. I mean, it saddens me to a certain extent to make fun of you guys as the Roosters because here I am. I've got 2 Gamecock tattoos, my friend. So,
oh man,
and I've been throwing around the insult dirt peckers for you guys.
Yeah.
But
I like that.
It hurts me in my soul because that is a Gamecock, my friend. So
yeah,
it's been
I lied. We actually did have a mascot. Now I'm thinking about it. An actual rooster. So one of our fans, Jason Zimmerman, me and him became friends about 4 years ago in a Saracens fan group, a Saracens American fan group. And there's actually several of us that are now, we know each other through that group and we're all fans of different teams. So we try and see each other as our teams are playing. Yeah. Jason's one of those guys. He lives in Pennsylvania. There's no team there. Right. So he adopted Rooney. He lives on a farm. So he actually had a rooster and he named him Ben Foden in 2019. And then sadly at the end of the season, they ate Ben Foden.
Oh God! If you guys want a mascot, a live one, this would be cool. I don't know how that would work in Jersey City, but I know some people that have Sir Big Spur, who's the Gamecock mascot. They treat him like gold. So maybe we can make something happen.
Yeah, I don't know about that. Another Michigan Wolverine lore. The reason the Michigan Wolverines don't actually have a live mascot is because in the 30s they did, and it bit the governor of Michigan one game, and he banned it from the stadium for life. So just funny fan folklore. Even though it's not rugby related, I think you guys would enjoy.
Well, I've got a suggestion for the management of your club. Is if you guys get a chicken suit, I think Scott would be the perfect person to.
No, there was an idea in 2019 through somebody that was working for the club that we were going to have a sevens tournament at halftime in chicken suits, full contact. And I was like, one, you can't see out of the suit. And two, are we going to be insured for this? And they were like, well, we're not sure. And I'm like, well, I'm not playing.
Right. Yeah. I don't blame you on that one. Scott, this has been great, man. Let's do it next time that these two teams play each other, man.
Absolutely. You know what? I will be up there for the July 4th match. I'll be going to the Cape that weekend. I'm going to go that Saturday to go to the match. So hopefully we can meet in person.
Yeah.
I want to, hang out with a bunch of Free Jacks fans. I'm trying to get some other Rooney fans to come up with me and take the trip. From our Albany. We have kind of a New York City club and then an Albany fan club. So we're trying to get the Albany guys to come down to that one or come up to that one. So definitely appreciate it.
We'll welcome you with open arms. I mean, we'll shit talk you a little bit, but after the game, we'll embrace. I'll buy you a beer. All right.
Absolutely, man. Definitely.
So it's been a long episode, guys. I wanted to thank Scott once again for joining in the podcast there. This has been a long episode, but it's rivalry week, baby. I mean, what did you expect? We wanted to have a jam-packed episode for episode 4 here. Appreciate you guys hanging in there. Final thing before we get out of here, it's a tradition at this point, a new tradition, if you want to call it that, because we've only been 4 episodes in here, to go over American Revolutionary War history. Of course, New England, very rich in our American Revolutionary War history. I will leave you with this. In 1783, the first United Empire Loyalists arrived in Canada to take refuge under the British. So these were folks that supported King George and Britain in the fight for American independence. So they kind of were people without a country after the Patriots won, of course. So they had to head on up to Canada. Revolutionary War quote for the day: I think the first duty of society is justice. And that was Alexander Hamilton. It's been a great episode. Yeah, let's go Free Jacks. Beat Rooney. Huzzah. Let's ride, baby. Woo!